As people all around the world, including more Westerners than ever, look at the idea of second citizenship and specifically citizenship by investment as a plan B to protect themselves, their families, and their wealth, one question that I've been increasingly hearing is, what are the safest countries that offer citizenship by investment? I'm going to answer that question and also tell you why it might be the wrong question to ask entirely. Hi, I'm Andrew Henderson, and here at Nomad Capitalist, we help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs legally go where they're treated best, whether it's international tax planning, second citizenship for more options, investment opportunities in new markets. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com, and we have seen a lot more people interested in citizenship by investment as a way to quickly get dual citizenship and have options that people who only have one passport don't. I think with all the chaos going on in the world right now, people who have high incomes and high net worth are saying, I want an escape plan. I don't want to be tied to just one country. And a lot more people are saying to themselves that just putting money in another country in bank accounts or investments or gold is not enough. They want a personal escape plan. And if you have the money to buy citizenship by investment, it certainly makes the process easier than going through a naturalization process or sometimes even getting citizenship through your ancestry if you qualify for that. So it's only natural to say, okay, well, how am I going to make sure that I'm safe? If I'm fleeing one country, that I'm worried about them taking my wealth, or if I'm worried about my physical safety in that country. We've heard that a lot from people in the United States in the recent months. I want to make sure where I'm going is going to be safer. I don't want to go from one frying pan to another, or heaven forbid, from a frying pan into the fire. Now, if we look at the statistics, okay, there's about a dozen programs that offer citizenship by investment, countries that have citizenship by investment programs. We have a lot of videos on these programs on our channel here. You can go and learn more about how this process works. You've got 5 countries in the Caribbean, sovereign countries like St. Lucia, Dominica, Antigua, etc. You've got a couple different countries in Europe, such as Malta, Cyprus, Montenegro. You've got Vanuatu in the South Pacific, and you've got a handful of kind of off-the-wall programs like Egypt and Jordan that most people that we talk to just aren't particularly interested in. The wild card is Turkey, and that's an interesting program as well. And so when you look at the crime data for these countries, obviously these really small sovereign countries like the Vanuatus or the St. Lucias, there's not as much data. They're very small. We don't really know exactly what's going on there. What we do know from countries like St. Kitts, for example, a number of years ago, they had a couple of homicides that really skewed the numbers and made them really high on the homicide ratings. It seems that has subdued. Certainly the Caribbean countries are not going to be the absolute safest countries in the world. And again, we don't have all the data, but if you look statistically from the reports that we look at, it would appear that Cyprus is basically in the top 20. Right at number 21 or 22 on the list of safest countries in the world. Now, again, they don't look at every country in the world, and none of the island countries were actually even on the list. But among those that were on the list, Cyprus came out as the safest at around 21. Malta was not that far behind it, and then Montenegro is not that far behind that. Now, here's what I think about this, right? I've traveled all over the world. I've been to over 100 countries, spent a lot of time living there, been fully outside of my home country for the last 7 or 8 years now. I've had very few issues. I do certainly think that Central America has a propensity for a bit more violent crime. I think if you look at the crime in places like Europe, it's often petty crime. And so I think that you can create, wherever you go, a bubble of safety. You know, people who are in the United States and they're looking at moving to Puerto Rico for tax savings, they point to the crime in Puerto Rico, yet there are neighborhoods in Puerto Rico that are perfectly safe and high net worth individuals live there and they generally do just fine. But again, if you're looking to improve your situation as much as possible, you do want to consider safety. And that's why I think that this may be the wrong question to ask. Now, financially speaking, I like the Caribbean countries. I like Vanuatu because I don't believe that they have the desire, the means, the capability, or anything else to basically come after you for your money. These islands generally don't have any kind of wealth taxes, inheritance taxes. They often don't even have an income tax. And so while certainly you may see a bit more global taxation in years to come, I think that these countries they are going to get their money from continuing to have citizenship by investment programs, continuing in some cases to be asset havens, although that's been somewhat diminished. And so not only may they not have fully the means that a country like the US or a bloc like the EU would have to come and take your money, I just don't think they want to. It's not good business. You know, a country like Dominica, where half of their revenue comes from these programs, they'd be shooting themselves in the foot to suddenly turn and say, okay, now give us all your money. They would have no credibility, and they wouldn't be able to keep their revenue stream going. That's helping them build housing for their people and build airports. They're actually using the money for things in their country. So from a financial point of view, I feel pretty safe with small countries that they are not going to go along with the big bankrupt countries in terms of taxing people or taking wealth. From a personal safety point of view, here's where I think the question is being asked perhaps in the wrong way. What I would look at doing if I become a citizen of Antigua, for example, and that may be one of the safer ones in the Caribbean. They have a no income tax policy for now. They are perhaps one of the nicer islands. Are you going to live in Antigua? You could. However, depending on whether you're keeping your current citizenship or not, it may not really add a lot of benefits. Right? If you're a U.S. citizen, you know, you're still subject to tax on your worldwide income. There are some exemptions and some exclusions for living overseas, but Antigua may not be the best place to maximize those exemptions. If you are a citizen of another country, you know, it'll remain to be seen what your country is going to do in terms of taxing worldwide income. And so my perspective would be use the second passport as a tool to facilitate better travel. You know, if you're an American, for example, or Israeli, or British, or any kind of other nationality that could, become an issue, then use the second passport as a way to travel. Use the second passport as a way to open other bank accounts. I'm not saying if there's a reporting requirement in the U.S. or anywhere else, don't do that. But I'm saying use the second passport as your face, basically. And then use that to go out and live somewhere else that you might want to live. So let's say that I'm an American and I'm worried about the government coming and taking a bunch of my money. I'd like to get a second passport as my plan B. Potentially at some point I will financially divorce the U.S. and then I will only be this other country's citizen. I will be Antiguan or Dominican or Vanuatu, whatever. And you don't have to live in that country, though. And so the idea that I'm going to become Antiguan so that I can live in Antigua is a bit of a false premise. You're protecting yourself against things that might happen in your country, and you're giving yourself the ultimate flexibility up into leaving your country forever. You need a second passport to do that, but let's say you are an Antiguan, you can go to Malaysia, you can go to Thailand, you can go to Mexico, you can go to any number of countries in Europe, and they're not going to generally treat you any differently as an Antiguan than they would as an American. There are some countries where Americans, for example, or British citizens or Australian citizens have a little bit of a leg up, or they're looked at a bit more favorably. But in a lot of places, in most places really, they're not going to deny you because you're an Antiguan. So what I would look at is have that citizenship by investment, certainly get as many financial benefits from it as you can. If you're concerned about rising taxes, then I think a lot of these are going to offer good tax benefits, again, particularly the Caribbean ones. I do have concerns that the EU might start imposing some kind of block-wide global taxation in the future. So if that's an issue, Malta and Cyprus would probably be off the table, as would Montenegro if you think that they'll join the EU in the future. But as for the islands, I feel pretty financially good about those. And I would basically be pairing my second citizenship by investment with a residence permit or permits somewhere else, knowing that they will welcome you no matter what your nationality is in those other countries. And from then you can choose where you want to live. Some of the safest countries in the world on this list are in the Gulf. So the UAE, Qatar. You can go and buy property in Dubai, and that can be where you physically live. And they're not going to treat you any differently, again, as a Caribbean citizen than they would as a US or a British or an Australian citizen. They're just not going to do that. You can go to countries like Georgia, also safe on the list. Estonia, Austria has a program for high net worth individuals to reside in Austria. You may not become a citizen of those countries, or you may not want to become a citizen of those countries, but you can pair citizenship as a tool along with residence as a place to live. And so I think that the citizenship gives you ultimate flexibility of a place where you can go. Let's say that you're trying to escape your country. Let's just say things get really bad and you need to get out. You can fly to your citizenship country and then from there, gather yourself and go with it where it is that you need to go. right? And so certainly it's easier for a citizen to be led into their own country of citizenship. So you do have that place where you can go that's outside of where you live and outside of your home country citizenship. But then from there, you can simply move on to somewhere else with your residence permit. So if you're really looking to pair citizenship and residence, understand that may come with tax consequences that wouldn't apply to a non-resident citizen, right? If you live in some of these countries, you might pay tax there, whereas if you're just a citizen, you won't pay tax, generally speaking. Cyprus or Malta being a perfect example, they do have taxes there. They just don't tax their non-resident citizens. So I think really, if you want to pair those things together, you've got to look at the tax planning aspect of citizenship and residence together. The European options may be more comfortable for most people, and there's a price to be paid for that. Higher price for the program, potentially higher taxation. Montenegro might be a nice middle ground that offers, I think, a pretty safe place. I have a home there. I live there. I feel very safe. Probably offers a bit more financial sanity than the European Union does. So I guess you need to figure out what's most important to you. Financial safety, I think you're pretty well covered by most of them, with the exception of possible future taxes in the EU. Personal safety, I would try and take a two-part approach as described. And if you don't want to take that approach, then you really want to focus on what you're willing to give up to get that singular approach that gives you your personal safety. So what are your thoughts about all of this? Which programs have you been looking at? Where would you like to live? What are your thoughts on personal safety? If you've been looking at this, leave a comment below. I want to hear from you. And if it's something that you're trying to figure out, feel free to head over to nomadcapitalist.com, contact our team, and they'll see how they can help you. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.